One Sunday morning, breakfast was on the table. There was no time to eat. She said to me, boy, hurry to Sunday school with the love of glory. Learn the holy story. Always have her dreams, despite the things this troubled world can bring. Oh, Lily, don't you know we miss you, sweet Lily? Place no one above you, sweet Lily. Living in the past. Sometimes it's no money, your life around. That's for you, Timmy. No money can turn your life around. Sweeter than cotton candy. That's Grandma Lily, not you, Timmy. Stronger than Papa's old brandy. Always that needed smile. Once in a while. Lily, she would break down and cry about your sorry, disappointing son of a self. All right. Enough of that. What has my coach and y'all's pastor been up to? Not much of anything. Megan was out there talking about how the camper had earned its name. Is that right? The inanimate object that is a camper earned its name. Yes? What name would that be? Trash heap? Trash pile? Trash storage? The forgotten one? What name did the camper earn, and how did the camper earn that name? Somehow it had done some work. Now, is that similar to how they claimed that the boys had earned their box blades? Really? So the boys, who are human beings, young, impressionable minds, developing boys, they had earned their box blades, and in that same token, the camper had earned a name. Is that right? Is that like the same way that Ernest the Shed had earned its name? The same way that the Zero Turn had earned its name? Is that right? The same way that sardine can of a mobile home, that sardine can had earned its name. Is that right? Okay, and so we really have to question the judgment at this point. We really have to question the judgment. I mean, it's either full theatrics for the sake of the YouTube, or it's judgment. Okay, because they're saying, boys, they earned the right to have these dangerous blades, these highly destructive, risky blades, in the same breath that the camper had earned some name of, and they earned some name of happy camper, had earned the name of happy camper. So at this point, is their judgment just completely up in the air? Is it completely up in the air? Really? Just completely up in the air. Is that right? Well, all right. What else? What else has he been up to? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. P2P Nodcast. Oh, yeah, I already know they're sitting down for the P2P Nodcast. Is it going to be a full-length Nodcast? Really? Oh. You already know how hard it is for me to sit through their normal 9-10 minute Nodcasts with their 1 minute intros, their 3 minutes of nonsense, and their 2 minutes of rambling at the end. How in the world would I possibly have any chance of sitting through a 20 or 30 minute Nodcast that they're sitting down for? How in the world would I have an opportunity to do that? And so now if they're going to go 20 or 30 minutes, okay, how long is the intro going to be? How long is the intro going to be? And then how much nonsense has to comprise the middle? Are we talking about 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of nonsense in the middle? And we talking about 5 to 7 minutes of rambling at the end? Oh my goodness. Well, let me warn you guys in advance. Let me warn you. You already know. I can barely sit through much of the regular P2P motivations. I can barely sit through those 9-10 minute sessions. The chances of me being able to sit through a 20 or 30 minute sit down Nodcast on the couch is close to nil. All right. but I'll do my best. But all right. But okay, all right. Before I get to my reaction to the recent P2P nodcast, where they talk about we're back. And I'm like, oh, all right, they are back. Is that right? Back from where? Okay, I thought that the nodcasts had been going. They've been going on for the past few months, past few weeks, past, I don't know, a couple of months. They've been going. I thought they were going. What do you mean you're back? Okay, but before I get to my reaction, of course, I have to recognize you guys that have been active in the comments. Keep that commentary flowing. Keep that dialogue going both ways. Of course, I have to recognize you ready, Tim Rice. I have to recognize you guys for popping up from time to time. You're popping up from time to time. Okay, I understand that you guys don't. Apparently, you guys haven't been watching this family as long as I've been watching them. I did see the comment that one of the heavies put in there about, well, you know, what has this family done to you? Why are you going after this family? And I'm like, okay, all right. Clearly, you have not watched enough videos yet. Okay, but stick around. Okay, go into the archives of the IAG. Go into the archives, and definitely, if you get an opportunity, go into the archives of the Resurrection Ranch. Okay, and view the videos with a discerning eye. Yes. Okay. Okay. Be discerning about what you're looking at. Okay. And then come back and talk to me about what the family has done. Okay. And so now there is a saying that I am my brother's keeper. Yes. Okay. That still applies. Okay. It still applies. Okay. And so if I am my brother's keeper, then that means I should be concerned about the way that my brother is carrying himself. Okay. I should be concerned about how he's treating his wife, how he's carrying on around his mama, Grandma Lily, and certainly about how he's caring for or nurturing those boys. All right. Forget about the farm animals and certain levels of neglect that go on around that farm. Forget about that. Okay. But if I am my brother's keeper, yes, that means I'm concerned about him. All right. And if I am my people's keeper, then I'm concerned about the effects that his actions have on others. Okay. Namely his close family, his close circle, namely those. Yes. But certainly others, those contractors and those neighbors that he snitched upon over the course of months and years. Yes. Okay. And so when you ask about what has the family done to you, Captain, go back and do your research. I'll be here. All right. I'll be here waiting with open arms. All right. Bring all that wilding in. When you come back, bring all that wilding with you. But in the meantime, I'll be digressing. Welcome back to the end game, where today I'm going to provide my reaction to the recent P2P nodcast, where I guess Tim is talking about we are back on the couch. So I'm going to give my reaction to that video here. All right, early in the video, I guess we see Tim and Megan getting their cups of coffee. Apparently, Tim prepared the coffee today. We can see the screw face. We can see the screw face on Megan's face. We can see it when she tastes her coffee. And I'm like, okay, now, why are we forcing Megan to drink the bitter black coffee? Why are we forcing her to do that? Megan makes the comment about it being a man's coffee, or about it being the mud coffee or what have you, and the man's cup of coffee. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's a man's cup of coffee, Megan, then why do you have to drink it? Okay, what's that all about? Is that about the submission? Is that right? Is that part of the submission? But shortly after that, they talk about how they supposedly transitioned the vision. And I'm like, okay, I thought you got the vision from God. And so how do you have control over the vision that you can decide to transition the vision of Resurrection Ranch? I thought the vision came from God. What am I missing here? Okay. But you talk about how you transition. First you said we transitioned the vision. Then I guess you caught yourself and you said, well, no. It evolved. Okay. It evolved, from what it was. And I'm like, wait, the original vision involved you guys rehabilitating some land, some supposed abandoned land, okay, and trying to rehab some property out there at the Woodlands property. That was the initial vision. Certainly it involved Grandma Lily, but on a higher level, it was about you trying to breathe, quote unquote, some new life into some land. And so how is it that now that you supposedly transitioned it to something else, now it's all about dry bones and can these dry bones live? And I'm like, okay, now hold on. It was about land at the beginning. It was about Grandma Lily's vision, or Grandma Lily's journey, I should say, Grandma Lily's journey at the beginning. And now you're talking about, well, it's solely about can these dry bones live? And I'm like, okay, coach. Talk about damage control. Talk about reshaping the narrative in front of our eyes. It's being reshaped. Okay. How do we move from land to simply being about a camper? And then how do we move from it being about a camper to it being about can these dry bones live? And then how do we transition to this supposedly being a home-based business, one for which you're trying to profit? Okay, it's a home-based business that you're trying to profit off of, but yet you're still trying to claim that you're going to give it away. So at one point you're going to give it away. Now you're trying to profit off of this camper. And I'm like, okay, coach, this web is just so tangled at this point, coach. I'm not sure how you're ready, Tim Wright. I don't know how they can keep up with it, but I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
I feel a bit bitter.
Yeah, I did a face when I was like, wow.
Black coffee. What's going on, y'all?
That's what happens when you make a black
Yeah,
coffee.
exactly. Yeah. What's going on, y'all? This is the From Prison to Purpose Godcast. I'm Tim,
And I'm Megan.
and we're here to teach you not to recidivize, but to maximize your potential. And I made the black coffee this morning, so it's a little bit bitter. So
It's a man's cup.
It's a man's cup.
What
It's mud.
Mud, cup of mud.
So when Megan makes it, it's smooth, but when I make it, it's bitter. For real. We were just talking yesterday about the camper renovation that we were talking about beast mode, and we were talking about beauty and the beast. Because if you've been keeping up with the Resurrection Ranch, you know that we transitioned our the vision, not just transition, but evolved, grew and changed a little bit. And we started resurrecting campers, which was the whole goal in the beginning, which was can these dry bones live? Like that's the mission, that's the purpose. That's what it's all about. It's all about God. And
Tim talked about how someone prophesied when they got married, when him and Megan got married. Someone prophesied that there was beauty and the beast. Like, okay, wow, talk about a prophecy. Good gracious, okay? And maybe that's what set Tim on fire as far as his defiance goes. Maybe that's what set him on fire. And maybe that's what encouraged him to build up this bullheadedness that he has about carrying out this deception and misleading folks. Is somebody declared that we had beauty and the beast, yes? And although some of his Ready Tim writers think that Tim is somehow a beautiful person, a beautiful being, I'm certain that the person that prophesied was referring to Megan. There's no question that he was referring to Megan, okay? And of course, when he was talking about beauty and Megan, he was talking about her as far as her religious upbringing, her stance as far as her ministry work, and being strong in her word and her scripture. And so I'm sure that's the beauty that he was referring to. The beauty did not refer to my coach, Tim, not by a long shot. But Tim was labeled a beast years ago. I'm not sure if that person knew that Tim was recently released from prison. I'm not sure if that person understood some of the trials and some of the tribulations that Tim went through while in prison. But certainly he could recognize a beast when he saw one. And he knew what he was looking at, yes? Although I'm sure that Tim, he didn't appreciate hearing it because he was like, well, which one of us is the beast? And Tim knew full well, okay? And so the thing is, when people truly prophesy, they don't sugarcoat things, yes? When they prophesy, they get messages directly from God, yes? Okay, and they speak it, they share it, okay? There's no censorship. And so that person said, I see the beauty and I see the beast. It is clear which one of you is which. All right. And so Tim, he tries to imply that somehow this created this beast mode concept that he has. And I'm like, well, here we go now. What is this infatuation? Okay. What is this obsession lately? Okay. I know you went through a phase where you're obsessed with demons. I do understand you went through that phase. I know you went through a phase where you're obsessed with your imagined haters. You went through that phase. And now all of a sudden we're hearing about beasts, and more beasts more often. Yes. Beast mode. I mean, are we talking about the mark of the beast? Are we talking about the biblical beast? Which beast is my coach Tim and y'all's pastor referring to? Okay. I don't know many pastors. And by that, I mean, I don't know any pastors that would label themselves as being a beast. Whether they're doing it for YouTube, whether they're doing it for content or not. Okay. A person that is right in his word would not label himself as being a beast. But they try to glorify this supposed beast mode as if they could not come up with other terminology. You could have come up with other terminology. Okay. If you're trying to describe Tim actually doing some work, actually accomplishing things other than the YouTube around that farm. Okay. But labeling him a beast, him accepting the label, AKA the mark of a beast, him being a beast, it's a bit off-putting. It's a bit shocking, especially coming from a supposed pastor, supposed minister. It's a bit shocking. Okay, but now they talk about beauty and the beast, and they talk about the fact that he's going to have to go beast mode on that camper, and eventually it will be a thing of beauty. And I'm like, okay, coach. Okay, all right. So considering that you got to put $400, $500, $600 worth of materials into that camper, not to mention the hours of work that it's going to take for you to cut corners for that unsuspecting buyer, coach. Considering all those things that are going to have to happen, considering the fact that even when you fix it up previously, it was never a thing of beauty. Okay, it was a place for you, Megan, and the boys to lay their heads down. That's all it was. Okay, but so you talk about the fact that, well, after I go beast mode, it will be a thing of beauty. And I'm like, okay, coach. All right, coach, we will wait and we will watch, coach. Okay, and as usual, we'll believe it when we see it, coach.
We've been working on this camper, RC, and that has the identity of happy camper. And we were talking yesterday, and we were talking about going in beast mode. And then after beast mode, we said that then it would be like beauty mode. You know what I'm saying? So we got beauty and the beast, right? Yeah.
That's right.
So we got this beast mode, man's cup of coffee, cup of mud.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say, I wonder who's the beauty and who's the beast, remember?
Exactly. Yeah, we had a prophecy that was prophesied over one time. And they said that we were like Beauty and the Beast. Like that's when we first got married. And I was like, who's the beast and who's the beauty? For real.
There's no doubt now.
Exactly. For real. Yeah, but how you doing?
Of course, Tim forgets about the fact that true podcasts are not supposed to be rehearsed. They're not supposed to be rehearsed, okay? He forgets about that, and he goes back, and he clearly it's scripted at this point as far as when Megan's supposed to jump in and what she's supposed to talk about. But here we are again. They're harping on this beast mode concept. Beast mode. This is a man of God, supposedly a man of God. Okay, infatuated, fixated on being a beast. And Megan talks about unleashing the beast. And I'm like, okay, all right. Now, I thought this was IAG. I thought it was supposed to be all about God, right? Why are we spending so much time talking about beasts? But Megan talks about this camper thing being an opportunity for her to exercise her faith. And I'm like, okay, Megan, you could exercise your faith on those boys, yes? Okay, when they talk about leaving, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Megan, that includes you. That includes you. You're one man, but that includes you. That scripture includes you, Megan. Okay? All right, and so you're talking about exercising your faith. What about exercising your faith on leaving or building a legacy, building an inheritance for those boys? Yes. It starts with their education. Okay. First of all, it starts with their development. It starts with you trying to instill some integrity in them, defining for those boys, what does it mean to be a person of integrity? What does it mean to be a person that's loyal, a person that's trustworthy? What does that mean? Okay. When are you guys going to model that for the boys? Yes? Okay? And then let alone their actual school type education and development, Megan. What about those things? You can exercise your faith with those boys. All right? You're already exercising your faith by sticking by your man. Okay, when many a viewer, many a commenter have they've implied that you should kick him to the curb and keep on stepping. Okay, they've implied that you should climb one of those times when you do get an opportunity to take your little 5-10 minute walks. One of these times you should keep on walking. They say you should walk down to the end of the driveway. You should climb that gate and keep on going. Have someone pick you up, have an Uber pick you up, and keep on stepping, keep on moving, Megan. Okay? But Megan, when you talk about exercising your faith, first and foremost, it should be around those boys. Okay? Tim is already experiencing your exercising of your faith. Okay? You as far as you going up and dragging this camper out of the mud, the muck, the mire, the briars that you guys put into the muck, the mire, and the briars yourselves. You put it in there, yes? So if anything, you guys killed it, yes? You talk about, can these dry bones live? If anything, Megan, there's mud on your hands. I won't say there's blood on your hands. We do know that my coach, Tim, he has those cursed hands. Yes, we already know that. Okay? And Megan, I won't say there's blood on your hands. But if that camper was killed, if it was killed, okay, Megan, then there's mud, there's mire on your hands, Megan. You guys are the ones that relinquished it. You guys are the one that pushed it down to the edge of the property. Okay? You guys are the ones that banished it, abandoned it, yes, condemned it, and then crammed it full of trash. You guys are the ones that did that, Megan. All right? Talk about, can these dry bones live? Forget about trying to resuscitate some supposed dry bones, Megan. Why did you kill it in the first place?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about some of the things that the Lord has us unleashed on. Talk about beast mode, but some of the things that He has us unleashed on in this season, and it's really been amazing to see Him work. You know, you were talking about working on the campers, and I really feel like He's given me this fresh new opportunity to exercise my faith.
Yeah.
And that's been super exciting to step out on faith. And then He's done it, but kind of like started me out at kindergarten.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have to start where you started with the camper.
Mm-hmm.
Woo!
It was rough. and only the oldest will understand.
Tim talks about the fact that they bought the camper for around $200 or $260. And he says, well, it was something that should have been left on a trash heap. And that's true. That is absolutely true, Coach. Somehow you convinced Megan that it was worthy for you guys to live in it as a substitute for actually having an actual house. But you're talking about how now it's dry again. It's dry. And so how somehow God is using you guys to show how something that's dry or something that's dead can be brought back to life. And I'm like, you guys had your opportunity. You already had your opportunity, Coach. You had your opportunity, yes? You guys lived in it. Then you abandoned it. You neglected it for years upon years, okay? What was God whispering in your ear while you guys were leaving it down there? Okay, when you left it down there to collect dirt and mud and ants and roaches and mice and other animals and mold and mildew, what was God whispering in your ear while you guys left it abandoned, while you neglected it for years? What was God whispering to you then? Okay? Are you saying God was not in the season of whispering to you? Okay? He's still not in the season of whispering to you. No? Is that right? The only one that's doing the whispering is my coach. My coach, Tim, is the only one that does any whispering around the IAG. Is that right? He's the only one that doles out visions around the IAG. He's the only one that doles out missions around the IAG. Is that right? What about purpose? Because Megan, of course, she indicated to us that they get the vision from God, and then they transform that vision into their personal purpose. Okay? Now, does my coach, Tim, does he also designate the purpose? Does he do the vision, the mission, and the purpose? And of course, the execution. Does that all fall under my coach's jurisdiction? Okay? Does it really? Well, all right. But he talks about how they transferred over this camper, this piece of trash, Okay, so their first acquisition. Well, no, I'm sorry. Probably not their first acquisition. I'm sure that those tractors were acquired. That sponsorship for that equipment was acquired under the Resurrection Ranch LLC business. Okay, but he talks about how they transferred the camper from his name over to the LLC. And I'm like, okay, now you transferred it over to Resurrection Ranch. Now, if you have a supposed Resurrection Campers LLC, if you truly have one, wouldn't it make more sense for you to transfer the camper over to the Camper Business LLC? Why would it transfer to the Resurrection Ranch LLC, Coach? All right, Coach, we do know that you're not seeking much business advice other than what you see on YouTube. We do know that you're not soliciting much legal advice. You're not soliciting or seeking out much tax advice. But Coach, okay, I would admonish you, Coach, be very careful. Be very careful, yes? We do understand that you feel as though you have a certain God or Jesus complexes if you know it all, Coach. All right, but when it comes to those tax laws, Coach, when it comes to the legal ramifications, Coach, and certainly when it comes to the IRS, Coach, you want to talk about beast mode? Okay, you want to talk about beast mode? All right, mess around with those numbers, Coach. All right, mess around with those business holdings. Mess around with those profits. Mess around with those salaries that you're supposedly paying to Grandma Lily. Okay, mess around with that public assistance, Coach. Mess around with it. You want to see beast mode? I don't think you really want to see it, Coach. Not really.
That was like literally the camper that we're working on, y'all. If y'all haven't been following the journey on the Resurrection Ranch, the camper that we're working on, and it really, you have to go on back. You have to be an oldie to understand, because we bought this camper for $200. I think it was like $260 because we ended up signing over the title from my personal name to our business name, which is Resurrection Ranch LLC. And so when we were looking it up, I saw $260. I've been saying $200, but we literally paid around $200 for this camper, and it was falling apart. Like it was just something that you would think would be left on the scrap pile.
Right.
But the Lord used that, or is using it, to like glorify himself and show us this beautiful process of taking something that's dry, like very dry, you know, dead, forsaken, dry, like something that should be thrown in the trash pile, and showing that he can bring life to that thing. And this is just a like an inanimate object, you know, a hunk of metal, pieces of wood. Right. So if he can do that with hunks of metal and pieces of wood, what can he do with us in our lives, like his children, the people that he loves, like that he gave his life for? It's just like the Bible says.
Megan talks about oh my God, Megan is reinforced. She's backing up the Bible. Yes, my coach started rambling early in this P2P nodcast. Okay, I don't care if it's a 10-minute, 12-minute, or 30-minute nodcast. It's still a nodcast. Where's my pillow? But anyway, they talk about, well, you know, in the Bible, they talk about the sparrow. And so if God can care about the sparrow, okay, if he can show love to the sparrow, then how much love can he show to us? Yes, his children, yes. And so they try to draw a comparison to if they're able to, renovate, if they're able to rehab this camper. And it's like, well, God does not rehab campers. All right, okay. God caring for a sparrow is not the same as God caring about a raggedy old camper, okay, that you guys neglected. You had free will and you chose to neglect that camper. Okay, you could have given it away years ago. Yes, you could have sold it for free. You could have sold that camper for free. Or you could have given it away years ago. You hoarded it. You hoarded that camper for years. Okay, and so you talk, well, if God cares about the sparrow, okay, then certainly he cares about human beings. And so you're like, well, if God is gonna rehab this camper, then certainly he can rehab us as human beings, as his children. I'm like, okay, there's no comparison, coach. Oh my goodness, there's really no comparison as far as this goes, huh, coach?
If he takes care of the sparrow, it's like, how much more will he take care of us? So it says, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow is sufficient for itself. Like, don't seek after those things which the unbelievers seek after. Like, but you understand that God is going to give us our daily bread. You know, like we pray, give us this day our daily bread. You know what I'm saying?
And in the process of working with and bringing life to these inanimate objects, he's working on us.
That's right.
That's the thing, that process,
yeah, we said that.
and doing the things with our hands, you know, he's like developing me, he's developing us. Right. We're working together as a family. It's just, it's amazing because
Megan talks about how her faith is growing. She can feel that her faith is growing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Megan, surely you must be talking about the faith that you have relative to the fact that your plate was already full with raising those 4 boys by yourself. And also homeschooling 3 to 3.5 of those boys by yourself. Doing the cooking around the farm by yourself, doing the cleaning around the farm by yourself. Okay. Certainly the boys help you when it comes to the farm chores. And certainly Tim helps you when it comes to the filming. Okay. But when you talk about your faith growing, it's got to be relative to you adding. You know, I know my coach talks about this supernatural endurance. Okay. If anything, he's talking about the endurance that Megan displays. Okay. He's not talking about his own endurance. Okay. It does not take much endurance to film YouTube videos all day. Okay. And to edit YouTube videos all night. Okay. All you have to do is ignore the other pertinent issues around the farm. Okay. Just ignore the fact that you're supposed to be raising up boys. Ignore the fact that you have farm animals that need to be tended to. Okay. Ignore that stuff. That doesn't take supernatural endurance. Okay. All right. If you're not doing any quote unquote big projects around the farm. Okay. If you're taking 2 months off in between projects, you're not doing much work. That does not take supernatural or superhuman endurance. Okay. But she talks about it building her faith when she's doing these things. And she's talking about, well, I know how God works. And I'm like, okay, Megan, hold on now, Megan. Okay. Now, I know my coach, Tim, he does not have a problem with taking the Lord's name in vain. Okay. Especially with the way that he tosses around this resurrection term. Okay. He doesn't have a problem with that. He doesn't have a problem being labeled as being a beast, being marked as a beast. He doesn't have a problem with that. Okay. But Megan, when you talk about that, you know how God works, no one knows how God works. Okay. Now, you may have had a glimpse into how God has worked, past tense. Okay. But miracles and wonders. Okay. They're unseen to this point. They're unseen. Okay. They're yet to occur. All right. They're unimaginable. So how in the world can you say you know how God works? And you already know, you've already committed God to your actions on this raggedy old camper having a ripple effect for your kids and for their kids. I'm like, what kind of foolishness? All right. And so we can only surmise that when you talk about the fact that you know how God works, you're referring to Tim. You're saying you know how Tim works. Okay. And you know that if you just follow the script, you stick to the script. Okay. You follow his lead. Yes. You participate. You aid and you abet. You serve as a willing accomplice to his schemes and his manipulations. If you just go along with it, then you can be that quote unquote happy wife. Okay. And as such, maybe your family can have a happy life. Yes. That could only be what you're referring to. Okay. But for you to claim that you know how God works, you're a woman of God. We know that Tim says some foolish. We know he says plenty of goofy things. Biblically goofy. Yes. All right, Megan. But Megan, don't let too much of that rub off on you, Megan. Come on, Megan.
It's so much bigger even than what we can see now and the fruit that I see now and the things that he's challenging me to do and asking me to do. And I know that my faith is growing, and it's like I can only see what's happening right now. But I already know how the Lord works, because this is like ripple effect into my future, into my children and their lives and their children's lives. So it's like a eternal process. You know, he's working on us right now, and it just seems like very simple and very like small. Oh, you restoring a little camper, but I can feel it. I feel the things that he's doing in my life and my family, and that is.
Megan, she offers up the fact that their initial mission from God was, well, can you have a farm that's not just about cultivating produce or cultivating crops? And now, if God did ask that question or give you that mission, I'm hearing that's a farm that's not solely about crops. Okay, and so how did you draw from that message that you're not going to raise up any crops whatsoever? What do you, no crops whatsoever. It's a farm. But you talk about, well, you know, God said, well, you know, can you have a farm that's also about cultivating people? And Megan is patting her chest like, yes, that was the bigger mission. And I'm like, okay, well, you failed at that as well. Okay, at least to this point. Because you talk about cultivating people. When you lock your farm gates, when you shut off your farm from the outside world, you shut off your farm from civilians. Which people are we talking about? Okay, when you shut down your ministry, shut down any of your ministerial work, when you shut it down, which people are we talking about cultivating? Okay, when you're patting your chest, Megan, are you talking about cultivating yourself? Is that the person that you're talking about? God suggested or gave you a mission to cultivate yourself, Megan? Did God give Tim the mission to cultivate himself? Do you guys, as a family, have a mission to cultivate yourselves? Okay? Is that the mission that God gave you? Forget about cultivating crops and produce and giving away to the needy. Okay? You're telling me God said, I want you guys to focus on yourselves. Focus on building up your own personal abundance. Okay? And if you have excess, I want you guys to sell it on eBay. All right? I want you to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. When you get excess donations, I want you to sell it. Don't give it away to the needy. Don't give it away to the less fortunate. I want you guys to profit from it. Okay? Only time I want you guys to donate, and you tell me this is what God said, supposedly. Only time I want you guys to donate something is if it has sat up in that trash heap of a camper for years, collected dust, dirt, roaches, mice, poop, pee, etc. And then once you're ready to discard it for the junkyard, then I want you to offer it up for donation. You're like, okay, Grandma Lily, go ahead and donate our trash. And whatever they don't take, Grandma Lily, just go ahead and dump it in your backyard. Dump it in your quote unquote burn pile / trash heap over there at the Woodlands property, aka formerly known as Resurrection Ranch. But oh my goodness, cultivate people. All right, it's been, what has it been? 5, 6, 7 years? Okay, you guys either ignored the mission that you got, or you failed it miserably, or you misconstrued it miserably. Which is it? It's one or the other. I don't want to hear about cultivating people when you've been locked off from the rest of the world, when you've been isolated for years.
Having an impact. I really do feel that way. So you ask, can these dry bones live? And you might go out and restore something or step out on faith, but it's not just about that thing. It's bigger than that. You know, the Lord is developing you in that process. And that's a question that the Lord asked us when we first started the farm. He was giving us a vision to work with our hands, to have to give to those who are in need. He said, can you have a farm that's not just about cultivating crops or animals,
that's
right?
a good one there.
But about cultivating people.
cultivating and developing people. And that was always our whole mission, our whole goal with this journey, this farm. And I know it might seem like, I don't know if it seems big and flashy, because it's super simple in real life. We're like some of the most.
Tim says, well, in this video, the purpose is for them to talk about their vision, their purpose, and their passion. Okay, all right. And he talks about, how they're the most boring family. And like, we know that. We see it in the videos, okay? When you guys try to pretend to make things exciting. Yes, when you try to force these boys to say things are good when there's clearly not much goodness in their lives. When you try to force them, you try to force Megan to be excited, and she's the only one screaming. She's screaming about the experiments. She's screaming about the pressure washer. She's screaming about these various things, and it's like, okay, where's the excitement, Megan? We're not buying it, Megan. Certainly, we're not buying that raggedy old camper that you're trying to feign excitement about. Okay, so we know that you're a boring family. We already know that, but we already know when we see you try to stretch this dry content on the YouTube, we certainly understand that you're not an exciting family. And so you say, well, we argue and we fuss and we fight just like any other couple. You talk about, I want to be self-deprecating. And he says, we are not perfect. Self-deprecating implies that you're going to talk about yourself, Tim. And you can't do it, Tim. You can't do it. You can't speak negatively about yourself. You can't do it. I know you can't do it without dragging somebody down with you. Okay, if you're going to be self-deprecating, tell us about your own flaws, Tim. That's how it goes. It's a self-reflection, okay? It's about your flaws and your weaknesses, okay? And I'm going to be self-deprecating. So let me talk about me and Megan and how we're not as strong. We argue, okay? All right, go back to the dictionary, coach. Oh my goodness. But you talk about how the couch, you say the couch is what brings you guys together. You're able to sit on the couch together. Of course, you have a divider down the middle of that couch, coach. I don't know if you noticed that, but if you're trying to be symbolic, you're trying to use that couch for some sort of symbolism, coach. There is a divider that separates you down the middle of that couch, coach. All right. But you talk about how Jesus is the couch. I'm like, oh my goodness. Have we started rambling even before you got to the purpose of this video? Have you started rambling already? You're telling me that Jesus is the couch. So you're sitting on Jesus? Okay, so now I know back when you were in the city, you had that young man scale that ladder, dangerously scale that ladder and pour that bucket of water on you with the umbrella. And you're talking about somehow standing under faith. And then you had the other young man dip the sponge in the swimming pool, dip it in the swimming pool and squeeze it out. And you're talking about pursuit and purpose and all that goofiness. So we know we know that you're flawed, you're goofy when it comes to props, when it comes to imagination and innovation. Okay, we know that you fail. Okay, but you're saying that Jesus is like a couch. You sit on Jesus. Yes, you eat your meals on Jesus. You drop your crumbs on Jesus. You pass gas on the couch. How is the couch? You jump on Jesus. You bounce on Jesus. You sit your big old on Jesus. How is Jesus like the couch? Oh man, okay, I'm not gonna be able to take much more of this, but let's see what else you got to say about this, coach. Let's see how much longer I can stick around.
Boring people that you will ever meet, you know what I'm saying? Like, but is the vision that we have, and that's really kind of gets into what we want to talk about today, is vision, purpose, passion. Like, what drives us? How do we work so hard? How are we so intense? Like, how are we so unified? Like, let's look. It's like, about as best unified as you can be as a husband and wife.
We're not perfect, y'all.
That's why, because we want to be real. Like, we're realists. And I wanted to say how we stay so unified, but I also wanted to like self-deprecate and let it be known that we're just like any other husband and wife. You know what I'm saying? We argue. have disagreements, we, all those things, but we still have Jesus as the center. Like we both are able to sit here because Jesus, like, is the couch. You know what I'm saying? Like we're like, he is the thing that holds us together. And in our minds, that's the only thing that can hold marriage together. But our
Tim and Megan, they explained to you guys why they've been doing the P2P motivations instead of doing the sit down nodcast. And they're talking about, I guess they haven't had the opportunity, or Tim was on some kind of mission, some kind of monetary mission. And so they talk about the fact that it's always been in the back of their minds that they want to do the nodcast, what they call the podcast. In the back of their minds, I'm like, okay, here we are confusing and recrafting the missions or the initial visions and whatnot, okay? The initial concept was you guys were going to sit down and do a podcast, okay? You were going to do a blasphemous Godcast. And so what are you talking about in the back of your mind? You wanted to do a podcast. That was the initial mission. Did you not forget? Did you forget about that? Do you not remember? Good gracious. How many new viewers do you think you have? Okay. Most of your viewers have been around for a while. We do understand how this nodcast started. We know how it started. So you're saying in the back of our minds, we thought we would do a sit down on the couch someday. I'm like, that's what folks were expecting. When they subscribe, when they hit that subscribe button, they're expecting you guys to sit down. They weren't expecting you to wander around the farm and give these little goofy inspirational speeches and track up and down the driveway and try to motivate someone to do things that you're not accomplishing yourself. Okay, they weren't expecting you to be out there in that sweaty old t-shirt, plagiarizing other motivational speeches they weren't talking about nonsense. They weren't expecting you to give them 1 minute of intro, 3 minutes of nonsense, and 2 minutes of rambling, and then talk about as if you've done something. They wanted you to sit down. They expect you to sit down. Okay, and now you're talking about, well, we wanted to do this eventually someday. All right. You talk about the fact that, okay, the reason why supposedly you haven't sat down, you said you haven't had the time. And you're like, well, can I say time? Is that the proper term? We're like, well, no. Of course, that's not the proper term because, Coach, we know that you yourself have plenty of time. If anything, Megan is the one that does not have the time. Okay, so when you talk about we may not have had the time, only thing you're saying is Megan didn't have the time. Okay, and you may not have had much time because you were busy doing your editing, your scripting, your editing. Okay, Coach? But you talk about the fact that, okay, well, now we can sit down. You talk about, well, when you have four kids, it's not so easy to carve out time. It's not so easy. And you're talking about, well, we may have had to threaten those boys. A little truth, Coach? Coach? And then you talk about, well, we may have had to say, well, please, can you please be quiet for 10, 20 minutes or so? Okay, and you liken it to begging. And I'm like, well, clearly, Coach, we do understand, okay? We do understand that you're troubled when it comes to manners. Okay, we know you're deficient when it comes to manners, okay? Saying please, those are considered to be manners, okay? That's not considered begging. Just because, and that might explain why we rarely hear you say please. And by rarely, I mean never. We never. Almost never. I'm going to say almost never. We almost never hear you say please to those boys. Please to Grandma Lily. Please to Megan. We almost never hear you say please. Okay, because for one reason or another, you think that please implies that you are begging. Okay, please is not a term of begging. Now, okay, you can say, please, please. That's begging, yes? But just saying, well, Megan, can you please get me a cup of coffee? That's not begging for coffee. Okay? Megan, can you please take little Benjamin while I film? While I do the real work of a father. Can you please take, that's not begging. Boys, can you please pick up after me? because you know I'm prone to leave trash wherever I finish with it. Okay, boys, you know that I'm not one for cleaning up after myself. Boys, can you please pick up those boots, or please pick up those shovels, or what have you? Can you please pick them up for me? That's not begging. Those are manners. Okay, that's called courtesy. Okay, coach? Okay, so apparently you missed all of those lessons when you were locked up during your formative years. Okay, clearly there are after effects, okay, that some of us have not noticed. Okay, but when we have a grown man saying that if you offer please, as in a request, that you are necessarily begging, that prison life impacted him. Yes, just like he stole from folks when he was robbing folk. Clearly, his prison life stole a lot of his upbringing. Okay? It stole a bunch of his development from him. And in turn, he's stealing it from his boys. But we've talked about that already. But okay, I can't take any more of this. That's it.
With the From Prison to Purpose Godcast channel.
That's right.
So we've always kind of had it in the back of our minds. We want to do a Godcast. We want to do a Godcast. But I feel like the opportunity, maybe.
Yeah.
We didn't force it. We didn't force the opportunity.
That's right.
And
led by the Holy Spirit.
Right. It does take a lot.
God's time.
Yeah. I was going to say it takes a lot, but there's a lot that has to happen. Yeah. I'll say that. In order for us to sit down.
Right.
At the couch, exactly. And it's quiet for more than about 10 minutes.
We do have 4 kids, and we might have had to threaten them just a little bit to be quiet. We say, just please, more like beg. It's like when you got 4 kids. It was told to us before.
That's it for my reaction to that recent P2P Nodcast where they talk about being back. Okay. They haven't even gotten fully into this discussion about their vision, their mission, or their passion. But I can't. I've heard enough. I've heard too much. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Chop it up in the comments. I want to shoot out some love to my current subscribers. Thank you for showing me that love. I definitely appreciate it. For those viewers that have not yet subscribed, please consider subscribing so that we can continue to shine that light. Until next time.